This is the second of 4 podcasts about the concept of Mojo in a day. It's kind of an explanation of what we do in the day-long workshop. And in this section, we're going to concentrate on the notion of developing your brand, your personal brand, and how you tell your story. Now, it isn't just companies that have brands. People can have them too. If you were to hire Ricky Gervais or Jeremy Clarkson for an after-dinner speech or to host an awards ceremony, then you should know what you're going to get. Because they've got strong brands, that means that essentially you have an expectation of value, you have an expectation of what you're going to get when you hire these people. And that's essentially what a brand means. So people can have brands too. So at Mojo in a Day, we ask people to consider how they see their own brand. In other words, what would you want other people to say about you? And of course, many things go into your brand. It clearly is going to include your professional area of expertise. But it's much more than that. It's things like your personality. It's your way of doing things. It's your particular style or your modus operandi. And it also includes an element of your history, or what I would describe as your backstory. Now, if you're going to stand out from the crowd, if you're going to be seen as distinctive and having what I would describe as a signature, you need to be able to tell a very compelling and authentic story about who you are and what you can do for people. And of course, the first version of that people experience is often your elevator pitch. That's 30 to 60 second overview of what you're about. Now, if you can nail that, you'll get a reaction from your audience, and ideally they'll want to know more. You'll leave them intrigued to want to spend more time with you. And this is the point at which you need depth. I use this phrase as story vault. You need to have a mental library of things like case studies and personal experiences, maybe media stories or pieces of research that you can pull out of your mental locker and weave them into conversations or presentations at a moment's notice. And it appears to be improvised, it appears to be spontaneous, but the vault is there and you've practiced telling these stories, and it's a terrific social skill and will really help you to be seen as likeable, distinctive. It'll make you more memorable, and it's going to help you develop influence in whatever field you want to be seen to be good at. Now, there is an expression, an acronym called a KPI. Now, obviously, we usually assume KPI with a thing called a key performance indicator, but the Australian speaker Daniel Priestley suggests an alternative. He calls a KPI a key person of influence. So when you develop confidence in your own story, and when you start telling it in a skillful and compelling way, you begin to build influence. You move up the ladder of influence. You change from being a person who's simply there, somebody who just exists, somebody who simply networks and tells people what they do, smiles, hands them a card and hopes for the best. And you move from that situation to being seen as somebody who's worth knowing, somebody who's worth spending time with. Your story begins to stand out from all of those, what I describe as vanilla versions, which are utterly forgettable and unthreatening. Your version is very authentic. It's about you, it's about your beliefs, it's about your values, it's about how excited you are about being able to do what you do and move people into a better situation than they were when you first met them. So as you start telling this story and you start spreading it, your brand and your reputation begin to precede you, and people start talking about you. You want to generate chatter. And then, of course, you begin to develop pull, and you draw in opportunities because people have heard of you and they like what you're about, they like what you stand for, and they want to speak to you. And ultimately, of course, you want to be seen as being indispensable.